Beginning with a little history lesson, a hiker went missing in Central Oregon in 1995, and people speculated after several sightings that he had contracted a virus called Hill's fever. This virus was an animal-borne one, called the face of the wolf by many people. Little Blake and his father, Grady, used to live in this isolated region in the forest. The love for the ethereal beauty of this place is understandable, but Blake's father has to continuously tell him to keep in mind that this place is as dangerous as it is beauty. Zoning out in this forest is practically inviting death. After scolding him, Grady sees a deer and takes out his gun to target it. Blake follows the action, but the deer runs away. Sighing, he looks back only to find Blake gone. After all that lecture, Blake thinks it's a good idea to run on his own to get a better sighting of the deer. However, as he goes around, there seems to be something with heavy footsteps and heavy breathing surrounding him. Blake starts taking his steps back, not knowing where exactly is the voice coming from, till Grady catches up to him. He gets another earful for being reckless when the two of them hear the sound again. The man takes Blake to the deer blind, and the two of them hide in there. As the sound comes near, they are sure that the beast is climbing up the deer blind too. The wooden door bangs loudly and the sound stops. Grady then gets up and looks around, feeling that thing running around. Sighting the horrifically eaten dead body of an animal, he soon sights something rushing and tries to shoot it. The beast runs away, which Grady labels as a bear for Blake. At night, Blake goes down to the basement, hearing his father talking on the radio with his friend Dan and telling him that the face of the wolf is real. He saw it, and he wants to take Dan to hunt it down for the safety of their boys. Blake hears this and rushes back up in fear. 30 years later, we have an adult Blake walking around the city with his daughter, Ginger, who is pestering him to get her an ice cream. She gets on the blocks right beside the road, which is not safe if she falls on the road getting unbalanced. She gets down only for a creepy man to scare her. This gets Blake mad and he scolds Ginger for acting recklessly and not listening to him. Seeing her scared, he apologizes to her, explaining that he got worried about her, and then asks her what her job is. He has fed into her mind that his job is to protect his little girl, while her job is to read minds, and whenever she reads his mind, it is always saying he loves her. At night, Blake and Ginger are fooling around while preparing dinner when Charlotte, his wife, comes back. She is on a call discussing some work issues as she places the mail on the counter. Blake picks it up and sees his missing father has been officially declared deceased by the state of Oregon. He starts getting frustrated, asking Charlotte to take her call to another room, but Charlotte ignores him because she is in the middle of an issue. After ending the call, she requests Blake not to do that, getting him defensive about this being something related to him not being busy and only her being busy. Ginger points out that they are fighting in front of their child, but Blake covers it up and then calms down, breaking the news of his father to them. Charlotte apologizes to him, and the two ask him how he feels. He tells them he is sad about a lot of things. Since his father was always intimidating and scolding him, he didn't talk to him much and left the house as soon as he got old. He chose not to speak to him, but now that he cannot, he regrets not doing so. The next day, Charlotte finds him sitting in front of her office building at lunchtime. He asks her if she is happy, making Charlotte awkwardly agree, exposing her weak lie. Blake tells her that she and Ginger are his only family in the world, and he knows that the couple aren't on very good terms emotionally lately. Charlotte agrees and also agrees that she wants this to get better too. Blake offers that they take a trip to Oregon to get his father's stuff and visit the place to spend some time as a family. He also wants to show them the breathtaking view of the river and mountains there. Charlotte is a bit skeptical about this given her job, and then shares her dilemma about feeling like she is not close to Ginger and not a good mother. Blake comforts her that she is great to Ginger, and then the two decide to take action on this trip. On the way, the three are playing games and having fun when Blake ends up reaching a dead end on the road. He thinks about where he went wrong and also looks through the paper map as phone signals are dead there. Before they can find an answer, Ginger points out a man standing in the deer blind. He looks creepy as he stands straight in the blind, but then he starts coming down. Charlotte gets scared as he has a gun, but Blake knows that everyone carries a gun around here. A man of the age of Blake comes up to them. Blake asks her about the way to Grady's house, making the man ask who he is. Blake introduces himself, making the guy respond with familiarity to Blake. He is a bit confused till the guy introduces himself as Dan's son, his childhood best friend, Derek. Derek tells them they shouldn't be out as it's getting dark and agrees to show them the way. Charlotte doesn't want him in the car, but Blake is chill about it. As they start to drive, Derek asks about their life in the city and throws some remarks about them probably needing to be careful about the viruses here. His comments and side eyes show he knows something they don't, but it doesn't last for long. Just when they are straight to the road to Grady's house, Blake sees something standing in front of them on the road, making him swerve the truck in panic and land on an edge with the van tilted. Derek is injured and falls out of the truck, while the others try to get out from the other way. Hearing something on that side, Blake tries to close the door and ends up getting hurt as that monster slams and breaks the truck's window. Blake hurriedly gets out from the other way when Derek's body gets dragged away. He gets his family down from the top of the truck, and the three then start rushing. Blake luckily remembers the way and guides them towards the house as the monster follows them. Bro knows how to juggle with keys properly as he manages to open the lock, get everyone inside, and slam the door on the beast before it attacks them. Ginger and Charlotte are traumatized for all the right reasons as they sit on the couch in fear. Blake takes his phone's flashlight to look around all the windows. After seeing no signs of a lack of safety or the monster, he goes down to the basement and successfully turns on the breaker. As the house lights up, Blake comes up and consoles Charlotte and Ginger. He sits with Ginger for a while trying to get her to sleep, but she is too scared. He apologizes to her for scarring her emotionally like this, and promises her that it is his job to protect her and he will do so. Once she is calm, he goes to Charlotte telling her they need to place something in front of the door if the beast tries to slam it down. Charlotte asks him what it was, making Blake share his fear and dilemma that it looked and sounded like an animal, but it was standing on its 2 feet when he saw it on the road. He then moves on to move a cupboard in front of the door. Charlotte and Blake decide to call someone for help using Grady's radio. After trying to get some signals, he smells something weird, which Charlotte doesn't, and opens a door nearby to see his father's jerkies placed there. Bro decides to pick up that old thing and chew on it, which is hard at the moment. However, the couple is shocked when Blake's tooth breaks at that. Suddenly, Charlotte notices his bleeding arm and pulls up his sleeve. There's a huge gash on his forearm. Charlotte brings the first aid kit and treats his wound as Blake says it seems to be from the glass of the broken window. Charlotte mentioned it seems more like a scratch from an animal than a gash from glass. After telling her to keep trying the radio, he comes up and nails the cupboard to the door so it is more stable. However, Charlotte and Ginger out of nowhere come and just stare at him weirdly and silently, not responding to what he is saying. The two then lie on the couch to sleep while Blake keeps nailing the board. As he's doing so, he feels a loud crack in his hand, making it seem expanded, even though it felt like the sound was of a bone breaking. Blake is at the sink later when he hears loud creaking voices as if something is traveling around the house. He cautiously goes up and follows the sound. In a room and a closet, he hears the sound, but when he opens it, there is just a spider crawling up a wall. And pretty sure it is that spider whose inaudible crawling is so loud to Blake's ears. He suddenly feels dizzy, but then he hears more sounds. Going down, he walks to the lounge, making Charlotte wake up alarmed because Blake's expressions, walk, and actions are not very normal at the moment. He signs her to stay silent as he hears footsteps of the beast outside. Following the shadow around the kitchen windows, he stands near the kitchen door, listening to if the wolfman is outside when his leg is suddenly grabbed through the doggy door. Blake panics and falls, and it is Charlotte who picks up something and keeps slamming it on that hand till Blake is not free. Ginger is panicked and crying as Charlotte keeps telling her to get back. Blake is breathing heavily in pain and backing out till he hits the wall and sits there. Charlotte keeps calling him, but he soon loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he is on the couch. Hearing muffled, incoherent voices, he goes down to the basement where Charlotte is talking on the radio, but it seems like the voice sounds gibberish to him. Out of his perspective and into reality, we get to know from Charlotte talking on the radio that she believes whatever animal attacked them has infected Blake, and he has not been himself since then. He is also unable to talk and doesn't seem to realize any of it. Hoping someone could hear them, a very scared and worried Charlotte gets up and turns around to see Blake standing there, looking old and weary, with his eyes turning their shade darker and scarier. He says something, but it makes no sense. Charlotte is very worried about him, and as she sees him peeing his pants, she takes him up to lie him down. When Blake wakes again, his vision is even more weirded, as if it is a night's vision, and he sees everything darker. His hair is falling out as well, while Ginger just stares at him. Charlotte brings him a notebook to write what he wants to say. With shivering and weak hands, he writes dying on a paper, but Charlotte consoles him he will be fine and how much he means to her and Ginger, only if he could hear her. It seems to Blake that he can speak fine while others aren't, but his vision tells him he is the one not okay. As he sits up, Ginger comes up worried about her dad, but seeing his bleeding wound, Charlotte sends her to the other room again. Opening the wound, she sees it is in a much worse condition, but the moment Blake sees it, he rushes to a corner and starts chewing and biting meat off his arm. Eating it, he and Charlotte both realize something is very wrong with him. Charlotte worriedly looks out and sees a worn-out truck. Wanting to try her luck in escaping and taking Blake for help, she takes him and Ginger and gets to the truck. Using some batteries, she manages to run the ignition, but the moment she clears the dusty screen in front of her, the Wolfman is standing there. He punches his arm through the glass, trying to attack Charlotte, but with him a bit stuck, the three rush out and manage to climb up the greenhouse and pull the ladder so the monster doesn't climb up. However, they are at a huge risk, as the greenhouse is just some sheets with bolts on the rods. The Wolfman isn't completely dumb. He goes inside and starts jumping and scratching it to rip it open. Ginger's side of it rips open and she almost falls into the hands of the beast, but the couple manages to pull her out in time. With his limited sanity, Blake knows he needs to save them, so he jumps down towards the forest so he can distract the Wolfman and the girls can rush back to the house. Locking the doors, Ginger shouts at Charlotte for leaving him out, but Charlotte exclaims back that Blake was trying to save her. After a moment, an injured Blake comes back at the door, turning more into a monster every passing moment. Coming in, he goes back to sit when Ginger comes to him, trying to talk to him and have her words reach to him. However, Blake suddenly vomits blood with a finger coming out of him. Ginger and Charlotte back away while a slowly maddening Blake rushes up to Charlotte as if seeing her as food. Charlotte stands as he comes up to her face and keeps staring at her. Charlotte seems to be breaking inside as Blake looks at her, contemplating whether she is family or his prey. Blake's human side still seems to be alive as he backs away and opens the door to walk away from his family. However, the moment he opens the door, the other Wolfman attacks him. The two keep pouncing at each other and trying to overtake each other while Charlotte tries to save Blake. Locking Ginger in a room, Charlotte uses an axe to attack the Wolfman every time Blake is on the weekend. This eventually helps Blake bite into the beast's neck and kill it, and only after killing it does Blake see the arms on its tattoo and realize that this Wolfman who infected him was his missing father. Blake walks out and falls to the ground as his body takes its final shape of a monster with its nails and teeth turning sharp and ugly too. Inside the house, Ginger asks Charlotte why her dad has to get sick. Charlotte has connected the dots and tells her that Grady contracted a virus and seemed to have passed it on to Blake. As the two want to escape, a new monster, Blake, tries to attack them. It seems like he indeed has night vision to be able to see them in the dark while they are unable to even judge his movements. Barely escaping him from the house, they hide in the shed where Blake appears too. Charlotte sets a mousetrap for him, which they succeed in getting him stuck in. As Blake's foot is stuck, they rush out into the forest. The man has lost his senses to the extent of cutting his own foot just to escape and follow them. It seems like being back to square one as Charlotte picks up Derek's gun and hides in the deer blind with Ginger, and Blake climbs up the blind to reach them. He stares at them for a moment while Charlotte finds it hard to shoot her husband. Ginger quietly tells Charlotte that her father wants this suffering to end, seemingly actually reading his mind. Blake waits for as long as he can resist before pouncing ahead. The moment he does so, Charlotte shoots him, making him fall. Moving down, the girls sit as Blake takes his last breaths, being around him while trying to console themselves. As they walk out of the forest, they eventually get to see the view of the mountains Blake wanted them to witness, but this may never seem breathtaking to them for their traumatic memories associated with the place.